Hi friends, this is Marilyn from tarotclarity.com, and today's video is, as I promised, it will be a demonstration reading using the Nicolas Rolichon Tarot of Marseille deck. This one was published by Marco Benedetti. Now, I showcased it a day or two ago, and it's a really special deck with a very cool history. So if you'd like to catch up on that, I'll link the link below. I'll put the link below so you can catch the history of this deck. However, this is purely a video on using the deck in a demonstration reading. Now, one of the things that happened to me while I was sick with COVID, oh, excuse me, I can't control my cough, so please forgive me because I'll be coughing a lot, is that I went down a few rabbit holes, particularly regarding true crime. Now, I'm a real scaredy cat. I'm not a person who's into violence at all. I mean, I can't watch anything violent. I change the channel. You know, it's basically PG or I'm out, you know, because I don't want to see violence. I can't see violence. I abhor violence, right? So I can't watch it. But that's not to say that I'm not interested in things that go down. And when this murder occurred, I guess I was made aware of it like everyone else, and then it kind of went, you know, I'm not invested in those individuals, you know, other than them being young people and beautiful people, and what a tragedy, right? But I didn't get sucked into that rabbit hole at that time. And just now when I've been sick, I got sucked into the rabbit hole, and I've been watching news reports and YouTuber accounts of information that's out there regarding these murders. Now, they do have a suspect. Of course, I'm probably the last one to know anything, so you guys you probably already know all this. They have a suspect, and, you know, there is some evidence against him that would be challenging to overcome. However, all the experts say it's not a slam dunk case, and if any of the evidence that we know of is discarded, the guy might walk free, you know. So, and if that happens, it either means that he has been falsely accused all this time, and there's still someone out there who did this, or that he got off on a technicality. So I don't know. So I thought it would be interesting maybe to do a demonstration reading just to see how this will all play out. Now, I did a demonstration reading on another true crime a month or two ago when Cavalcante was loose, and I just did a reading just to see how it would all play out. And the results were very interesting, so I'm hoping that we have similar results with this reading. So to do this reading, I'm going to do my signature spread, which is 9 cards across and then an additional 4 cards. Whenever I create spreads, I seem to create 13 card spreads. It just seems to be. I didn't do it deliberately. It just ends up that's what it ends up being. I have an open mind. I flip-flop back and forth what I think the truth is. And the case is taking forever, you know. I mean, it's already been almost a year now, and it hasn't really gone to real trial. I mean, you know, they had a grand jury and, you know, that kind of thing, but it's not moving along, you know, and which is, I guess, the strategy of the defense. But I think we'd all like to see it reach its conclusion and to know how it's going to play out, right? So I'm going to see what we can figure out by looking at these cards. Now, I might not catch everything that's out there. So if any of you have any insights on the spread, I invite you to respond and to, you know, let me know what you think. It's always interesting to hear other people's opinions. Okay, let me flip the camera. One thing I neglected to mention when I did this showcasing video here is the backs of the Rolichon by Marco Benedetti. I think that's a deep, deep blue. I don't think that's black. In certain lights, I catch it and it really looks black. Excuse me, it really looks blue. So I just wanted to mention that it's really striking. It's really beautiful. Anyway, the whole deck is beautiful. So let's see. I'll give it a quick. Yeah, I'm not having too much success I'm not having a whole lot of success riffle shuffling this deck, and it has more to do with me than it has to do with the deck. The deck is scrumptious, so it's not the deck, it's me. Alrighty, just doing a few shuffles here. See what we get. I have already gone off camera and asked the universe to give us the information that we need to know. We don't need to know everything, you know? And the question is just, how will things turn out with this case? What will be the outcome of this case? Very general. All right. So I already did my meditative thing off camera, but I just shuffle enough that you know that I'm laying the cards, you know, genuinely. Okay, we begin with the Tower. That's interesting. This is the second demonstration reading on a crime that I've done that began with a Tower, which is kind of interesting. Okay, the 6 of coins, another 6, wow, of batons, 2 6s and a Tower, which also has a 6 in it. Okay, 7 of batons, Ace cups. Wow, so this row has 2 6s and a 16. This has 2 7s and an ace. I look at numbers. The numbers intrigue me. Okay, third row, 4 of cups, the Queen, dang, and another 4. Wow, that's crazy. So the top row has 2 6s, the center row has 2 7s, and the bottom row has 2 4s. That's really interesting. I don't know what it means at this stage, but I think it's very interesting. The other cards that aren't just numeric are it begins with a Tower card. The front and center middle card is the Ace of Cups. And then we have a Queen of Coins. Now, I like to, you know, this spread that I develop, I do the quint for each row, put them on the end, and then I add up the quints for each row, and then I get a quint for the whole spread. So I'm going to go off camera for that. For those of you who are interested to know how I do it, I add up all the I add up all the cards that have numbers on them, numeric values. So it would be 16 plus 12 in this case. Here it would be, you know, 7 and 7 and then 1. Here I don't apply numeric value to the court cards. So for those of you who might want to use numeric value, for the court cards, it would be, the Queen would be like, I think 13, right? But I don't, so because it's not a numeric valued card, so I don't do it. So in this case, it would be just 4 and 4, okay? So let me go off camera, pull those respective cards, and then I'll pull the final one for the whole spread. Okay, now I think it's very interesting what these end cards turned out to be. For the top row, which I have not designated what each row means, because when I do a reading where there might be multiple features or multiple parts, I let the spread speak for itself, which is why I like to do this spread. Now, excuse me again. The quintessential card for this row is number 6, which is a lover's card, which is interesting because this whole row has been about number 6, right? We have a 16 here, we have 2 6s, and then we add them up, subtract 22, because if you subtract 22, you have the opportunity to have all cards between the no numbered card and up through the world card. And so it turns out to be 6. So this row is reinforced, this top row is reinforced by 6s. And the 6 card of the Triumph suit is a lover's card. And there were, lovers involved in this. At least one couple was murdered, right? So I think that's very interesting. In the second row, which is all about 7s, and then one ace, that quintessential card for that row is the devil, which speaks of evil. So there's the association with evil in this row here. Then we have the 8, the 2 4s, which equal 8, which is the justice card, which hopefully suggests that justice will eventually be served. So we begin the spread with calamity, absolute misfortune, right? And if we count this card, even though it's, an additional card, it's not the original 9, but in a sense, it's the culmination of this totality, right? We have calamity, begins with calamity and absolute misfortune in this context of this question, right? I mean, we're talking about a catastrophic event. So I wouldn't read this as, change, a little bit of change, I mean, we're talking, this is addressing the calamity of the situation. And it ends with justice, which is a great thing, Now, the quintessential message for the whole spread, interestingly, is the Chariot. And a lot of the evidence hinges on an automobile. Now, I don't know. I mean, this hasn't played out yet. We haven't seen how it's going to, we don't know. It hasn't even gone to trial. We haven't even seen any testimony or anything. But I think it's interesting that the final outcome card perhaps suggests something regarding a car, which happened to be white, which happens to be the color of these 2 horses, So I don't know if is it trying to hit me over the head saying something about the driver of the white vehicle, or it could just be, transcending and moving forward and justice being served, and I don't know. I really don't know. Or success, it could mean success, right? Justice being served and success in, with this case. Or does it mean that there's something about the car? I don't know. I do think it's extremely interesting how each one of these rows fixates on a number, Now, part of me was expecting to see a few pages, to represent young people in the very, young part of adulthood. They aren't quite adults yet. Legally, they are, of course, they were. But, there's... they're still young. They haven't made their way in the world yet. They were students, right? And they were, some of them graduating and moving forward and moving on. And maybe, so I was kind of expecting, though, to see 4 pages or at least a few court cards representing young people, like 3 women and a youthful young man. Now, I do think that perhaps the lover's card here is a story about Ethan and Xana. Perhaps this addresses them, since this overtly, very, obviously seems to look like them. Here we have a female, perhaps one of the girls who was graduating. I don't know how many of them were graduating, but one at least was. She no longer was in the apartment. She unfortunately came back to show, to, I think, support a friend during a sorority event or something like that. And she also wanted to show her car. Here's, could it be this? I don't know. But she also wanted to show her friend her car. So this could represent, I think the young lady that I'm referencing, her name was Kaylee. And so it seems like she's represented by 2 4s or 8 with justice. So then who's the center row representing, right? We have the Ethan and Xana up here. We have Kaylee here. Maybe this row also encompasses Madison, who she was with. She was in that room with Madison. But this row seems to indicate the wickedness, perhaps the person who is the perpetrator of the crime. This row seems to address that individual. And front and center of the core 9 cards is the Ace of Cups, which suggests something of a very deeply emotional nature. Emotional nature flanked by perhaps violence. Both of these suits can represent weapons. This is the only sword in the spread, and it's a 7. It's not a peaceful number. It's a number of transition, of could be escalation, right? So we have something it seems to me, in the front and center of the whole spread is just something emotionally triggering, resulting perhaps in violence. I mean, this is clearly, these are weapons, right? And then we have evil here. Excuse me. So there may be the feature of this perp that we need to know is that it was emotionally fueled, and the response was to use violence. 4s are a pretty peaceful number. And, the number 4 is, something that's just very peaceful, almost to the point of boredom, right? It's just like nice and stable, and emotionally stable, and socially could be socially stable. So, maybe this young lady, if it represents one of the young ladies, was in a good place in her head, in her mind, right? She might not have had any malice toward anyone. She may not have been the target. It doesn't seem from her perspective that there was any issue for her. And it's in her row that we see the Justice card. So maybe something that will be played out regarding one of these women will be the factor that brings justice to the case. This individual may be, something about this individual may be the catalyst, or may be instrumental in helping things fall into place in a sensible, not chaotic way in order to bring justice. Now up here, this top row, which perhaps identifies the young couple, that row starts with a challenge, with the onset of something. Maybe there was something about what was going on in their lives, if we look, maybe a little deeper, maybe we'll see the source of, that might have triggered the events. I'm not victim blaming. I'm not saying they did anything to trigger this, but sometimes, so there's no but. My point is perhaps that there's something that, unbeknownst to them, was a catalyst. It could be something they did that the perp thought, this is the opportunity, this is the opportune day. So it might have nothing to do with anything that they were involved in at all. But it could just be something that about them that was the catalyst for escalation, perhaps, an escalation. Now, 6 is a perfect number, and it's a beautiful number, and it's a number of harmony. And 6 of coins suggests harmony in the home, harmony, of your domestic life. And then 6 of batons suggests a perfect number as well in regarding your social life. So they were like at the prime of their lives. There are no, with the exception of the Lover's card and maybe this card, but I think this ace is referencing something else. But, cards can do double duty, and an Ace of Cups can be representing something of an emotional nature regarding why, right? But it can also represent, in general, just love, right? So we have 2 peaceful 6s in this row that's preceded by a catastrophic thing and is culminated with the Lovers, which is also a 6. Wow. So, this is, very interesting. Now, in hindsight, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out, because I don't have the advantage of moving forward 6 months to a year or whenever this case is resolved to see how these cards applied. So at that time, when the case is resolved, it will be interesting to come back and reverse engineer this reading, this spread, to see, how it played out, what kind of information. Now, I'm going to flip the camera to myself for a second. So we won't know, right, until we have the benefit of looking back and seeing how these played out. And at that time, I'll just do a reverse engineer, and we'll look at this spread again to see how it all played out. But I just thought it might be interesting. I thought some of you might be interested to see it. So until next time, friends, peace and stay well.